My best friend took my fiancé, but gave me something better. The two people I trusted most in the world took everything from me. My best friend, my fiancé, my whole reality. I remember just sitting on the floor of what should have been our apartment, surrounded by boxes for a life that was never going to happen. I felt a loneliness so deep, I thought it would swallow me whole. I was wailing this raw animal sound I didn't even know a person could make. But what I didn't realize then was that their betrayal, as awful as it was, would set something in motion. They took my fiancé, sure, but they ended up giving me back myself. To really get how that happened, we have to go back to the beginning. The perfect picture. For 5 years, my life basically looked like a perfect postcard. There was Liam, my fiancé, the guy I was so sure I'd grow old with. He was charming, driven, and he just had this magic way of making a boring Tuesday feel like an adventure. And then there was Chloe, my best friend since we were kids. She was my secret keeper, my other half, the person who knew me better than I knew myself. The three of us were inseparable. We spent summers on spontaneous road trips, celebrated every tiny win with cheap champagne, and built this little world that felt absolutely unshakable. Liam and I were saving for a house, picking out paint colors, and having silly arguments over what kind of dog we'd get. Chloe was right there, our biggest cheerleader, always going on about being the maid of honor and the cool aunt to our future kids. Life wasn't just good, it felt like a dream I was scared to wake up from. Of course, looking back, the red flags were there, kind of fluttering at the edge of my vision. There were the late-night texts between them that they'd just laugh off as an inside joke. There were these moments I'd feel like a third wheel in my own relationship, like I was on the outside of some inside joke with an energy I couldn't place. I'd bring it up, trying to be casual, and they'd look at me with such wide-eyed innocence, calling me paranoid, that I'd feel guilty for even thinking it. You start to dismiss your own gut feeling when the truth is just too terrifying to even consider. You tell yourself that real love and true friendship just don't do that. You trust them. And that was my first mistake. The shattering. The day my world completely shattered started just like any other. Liam was supposed to be at a work conference about an hour away. Chloe was supposed to be helping me pack up another room in my apartment, but she canceled at the last minute, saying she felt sick. I felt that familiar nagging little tug of suspicion, but I just pushed it down. A few hours later, I realized I'd left my laptop at Liam's place, and I desperately needed it for a work deadline. So I drove over, fully expecting to find an empty apartment. The front door was unlocked. I called out his name, thinking he must have come home early, but got no answer. I walked toward the bedroom, and that's when I saw it. Chloe's favorite jacket, the one she wore everywhere, was thrown over a chair, and right there on the nightstand was her phone, buzzing. It was a message from me, asking if she was feeling any better. The air just went out of my lungs. It felt like I was watching my life from outside my body, all blurry and muffled. For a second, I just stood there, completely frozen in disbelief, before I backed out of the room. I didn't need to see anything else. I already knew. The confrontation wasn't some dramatic screaming match you see in the movies. It was so much worse. It was quiet, cold, and just utterly devastating. I called Liam and I just said, I know. He rushed home, and the lies just fell apart. He admitted everything. They'd been seeing each other for 6 months. 6 months of shared looks I didn't get, of secrets I wasn't in on, of this whole double life they lived right under my nose. When I asked him why, he couldn't give me a real answer. It just happened. Then came Chloe. I met her at a coffee shop, the same one where we'd spent hours and hours dreaming about our futures together. She could barely even look at me. She kept saying she was sorry, that she never meant to hurt me, but that she'd fallen in love with him. Her words were just empty sounds. The two pillars of my life, the two people who were supposed to be my constants, had chosen each other. They left me standing in the rubble of the world we'd all built. The heartbreak was a physical pain, but the betrayal, that was a poison that went so much deeper. It felt like I'd lost not just a partner and a friend, but my own judgment, my own sense of what was real. The something better. The next few weeks were a complete blur. I ended up in a small, sterile apartment that felt more like a holding cell. The grief was suffocating. I felt this crushing isolation, this feeling that I was completely and utterly alone. I was just tortured by questions that had no answers. What's wrong with me? And why wasn't I enough? It's a dangerous place to be, when you start blaming yourself for what someone else did to you. I really hit rock bottom. I remember one night just staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing but this huge, hollow emptiness. And in that quiet, a different thought finally broke through all the noise. I can't let this be how my story ends. That was the turning point. The very next day, I made a choice. I decided I had to stop focusing on what they took from me and start looking at what I still had. It started small. I joined a running club and just pounded the pavement with every bit of anger and grief I had. The physical exhaustion was actually a relief. It was the only way to quiet my mind. I started pouring all that energy into my career, the one part of my life that was still mine. I took on the tough projects. I worked late, and I found this satisfaction in my own competence that I hadn't felt in years. I also did the hardest thing. I asked for help. I started seeing a therapist, and she helped me see that their choices weren't about my worth. It was this slow, painful process of untangling who I was from who I was with them. I literally had to relearn who I was on my own. I picked up old hobbies I'd let go of, like painting and hiking. I reconnected with friends who'd been on the sidelines of my life with Liam and Chloe. And I traveled. I went to Spain, all by myself, something I never would have had the courage to do before. I ate tapas, I drank wine, and I just walked for miles through these ancient streets, feeling my sense of self slowly, carefully stitch itself back together. What I found was that this new life I was building on my own was so much richer and more me than the one I'd lost. I wasn't bending and shaping myself to fit into someone else's world anymore. I was creating a world that was entirely mine. I was more independent, more resilient, and way more in tune with what I actually wanted. That was the something better. They didn't give me a new partner or a new friend. They gave me myself back. As for Liam and Chloe, I heard through the grapevine they got married about a year later. From what I hear, it hasn't been easy, building a relationship on a foundation of lies. But honestly, their story isn't my business anymore. My revenge was never about watching them fail. It was about me succeeding. Conclusion: a betrayal that completely shatters your world feels like the end. But sometimes, it's actually a violent, painful, and necessary beginning. Losing my fiancé and my best friend forced me onto a journey of self-discovery I never would have taken otherwise. I had to learn how to be my own support system, my own cheerleader, and my own partner. I learned that my worth isn't based on who loves me, but on how I love myself. The life I have now, full of real friendships, a career I'm passionate about, and this deep, unshakable sense of my own strength, is more fulfilling than I ever could have dreamed of. If you've ever been through something like this, if you've ever felt that soul-crushing loneliness of being betrayed, just know this: you're not alone, and it is not your fault. Your story isn't over. It's okay to grieve, and it's okay to be angry, but please don't let yourself stay in that darkness. You have the strength inside you to rebuild, to rise, and to create a life that's even more beautiful than the one you lost. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If any of this hit home for you, I'd love it if you shared your own experiences or some words of encouragement in the comments. Let's build a place where we can all support each other. Remember, sometimes the best chapters of our lives begin right after the worst ones end.